Hello and welcome to the Unconscious Mind. Nice to see you all. Hope we get to see your face, Kate. It would be lovely to see you. Haven't hung out with you for a very long time. Thank you for joining me. Today, we are going to talk about creating a relationship between the conscious and the unconscious mind and why we would want to do that. So I would absolutely love if you have questions at any time, please jump in, use the chat box or come off mute. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. But for most people who here do know me, but I'll just introduce myself quickly for those who are tuning into the replay. My name is Sarah and I am the founder of Soul Breath Movement, formerly known as Cura Life Yoga. I opened a yoga studio about 7 years ago. And I guess for as long as I can remember, I have been absolutely obsessed with the questions, why are we here? Why do humans suffer so much has always been a big question. Why can't we all just love each other? Why can't we all just be kind to one another? And why do we do what we do every day? It's kind of blown my mind from a really young age that why isn't everyone asking these questions all day, every day? And so I guess I started really young in my teenage years, inquiring into humans and how our mind works and the power of the body. And then I spent about 10 years in quite destructive behaviors, finding out what not to do through drugs and alcohol and sex and partying and traveling and blacking out and all the things you can imagine. And then I began a journey of about 10 years of healing from those 10 years, where I came back to myself and back to those questions and knowing that there has to be a way to live that does feel more fulfilling and joyful and pleasurable every single day. So those 10 years was all about my self-healing. It was when I became a yoga teacher. It's when I became a mother, a wife, and I've labeled it kind of like the first 10 years was the bad girl. And then I had these 10 years as the good girl where I ate really clean food and I was doing yoga every day and things like that. And then I got to my mid 30s and I've kind of felt like I've landed in this place where I'm in this balance, because I have spent those 10 years absolutely obsessed with self-healing, the magic of the human mind and the body, and the magic of self-healing and creating that space for ourselves so that we can step into our full potential and live a happy life. And through those 10 years, like I said, I opened a yoga studio, and this was my playground for discovering everything that was possible. I went from yoga to meditation to dance to starting sister circles, to breath work, diving into womb healing. Everything you can imagine was a part of this studio, and it has been the most incredible experience of my life where I have got to learn so much about myself. So now I have closed down my yoga studio, but I am running retreats, detox retreats twice a year, where I get to bring all of these modalities into one big experience. It started with a class and then it got to a workshop and then it was a whole day workshop. And I'm like, we need to just do it all. So I create these 4-day experiences now, or 5-day, 4-night experiences for women to step out of their life, to get away from their day-to-day hustle so they can have a break and really start to self-inquire, start to connect to their bodies again and learn the power that they have. My most recent obsession is neuro-linguistic programming. As we know, our words is what creates our reality, and essentially NLP is the language of the mind. And so today I'd love to talk to you about how our mind creates our reality. What happens after that is, and how, when we know how we have this knowledge, and knowledge is an opportunity for empowerment. So only the opportunity for empowerment gets shifted is when we start to take ownership, and action is when actually we make big changes. So we're going to talk about what that is, and then we'll talk about at the end about the tools that we can use throughout our whole life, because this isn't just like oh yeah, okay, I understand now, done. everything's perfect. This is a ever unfolding, exciting journey that we get to go on live and keep finding our edge and keep moving forward and just keep evolving. So we're going to go through the tools at the end, and then I will also share with you a little bit more about a 21-day breakthrough program that I've been working with some women at the moment, which has been absolutely incredible. So yeah, like I said, please jump in. If you're watching the replay, you're also welcome to friend me on Facebook, so you can send messages if you have any direct questions or emails. But otherwise, for you beautiful ladies on here today, please jump in if you have any questions. So I'm going to share my screen here. Oh no, I'm not, because our lovely Belle is our host. I didn't think of that. Will it keep recording if you give me back?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm just trying to figure it out. It should keep. And I'm not even sure how to make you host again.
So just go 3 little dots next to my name in participants, and then it will be, oh no, hang on, I can reclaim host. There we go.
Cool.
And it's still recording, so that works. See, we learn something every day. Okay, so essentially we're going to talk about now is what the unconscious and the conscious mind is. So on our day-to-day life, what we are consciously processing and having our awareness is only about 5% of our mind. So only 5% of us is conscious and consciously choosing our actions, reactions, beliefs, and so forth. And 95% of our mind is our unconscious mind. And this is what has been programmed into our mind from a very young child up until now. So we're actually, you know, day-to-day life, we are working 95% unconsciously. And we could also call this like on autopilot, because we're not sure exactly why we're acting a certain way. Can you relate to that? Like, I know what the right thing is to do, but I don't know why I'm not doing it. Like, we all know what we should eat. We all know that we should move every day. We all know what we should be doing yoga every day. But when we actually don't do what we need to do, or we know we should do, it's because there's 95% of our mind is actually creating and making decisions and behaving from our unconscious mind. So we're going to have a look here. You can see, I'm going to let my dog out because she's not going to stop crying otherwise. You can see here the senses is basically how we're receiving any situation. So right from when you're a baby, we're starting to take in information. And this is how we learn how to be human. We're watching and we're modeling people. So right from young, we're starting to watch our parents and people around us, and we start copying them. And this is how we start to create our internal representation of the world. And it's through our senses, but in any moment, our body is taking in 11 million pieces of information. And that is through all of our senses, through our nervous system, but also all of our senses, our sight, our hearing, touch, all of those. So we're bringing it into our mind, and obviously 11 million pieces of information is a lot to try to sort out and to make sense of. So what our mind does is goes through these 3 things. It either deletes information that we don't need. Have you ever gone on holiday and like 5 years later, you're talking about it and someone else who went on holiday goes, that didn't happen. It was like this, especially like siblings when you're kids, right? You're like, no, it didn't happen like that. And everyone fights over what the real reality of the situation was. It's because we all remember it differently from our internal representation. And a part of our mind has deleted different parts so that it isn't overwhelmed with too much information. Distorting is like, it changes the information so we can actually understand it to what we've known before, and then generalizing. For example, you know, if driving a car at the beginning, we're thinking about how to change the gears. We're thinking about putting our foot on the clutch first and having to indicate. And then our brain generalizes it and just knows this is the act of driving. So it chunks things together in order to also be able to process it, if that makes sense. So you can imagine from when you're really young, and they say between the ages of 0 to 7, we're constantly receiving information, and our mind is a meaning-making machine. It's going to create meanings around everything so that it can program it and just store it somewhere in our mind. And this is what is creating our memories, our decisions, our beliefs, our values, and even our identity. So again, for example, if we're younger, and say, you know, you're really excited, you've drawn a picture for your mom, and you go up and you're, mom, and you go to show her the picture, and she turns around and snaps at you and says, not now, I don't have time for you. And then we feel this emotional charge, and our mind has taken in this event, and it's had to delete, distort and generalize to make meaning of this event. And somewhere along the line, you could have made a decision that I'm not worthy of people's time. And so that's programmed in there when someone is, and there could be different triggers, right? Your mum could have been making a certain meal, there could have been music playing, there could have been anything happening at that moment, and our senses have taken that event in, created the emotional charge, and stored this belief in our mind. Can you imagine how many we have in our mind and how hard it is to sort through these? And this is what I love about NLP, is that we don't actually have to remember these events, because the unconscious will store it however it has stored it. So it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be like the real thing that happened, because there is as many perspectives as there are people in the world. So there is no real version of anything. So our mind is just going to be able to store it however it can. So when we create all of these things here, we've created our moods, how we act, our languaging, words that we use, our memories, our decisions, our beliefs and values. And the biggest one is our identity. We start to believe this is who I am. Our identity is the most powerful thing that we will be working with in the mind, because it's who you think you are is how you will act. It's what your behavior will be like. It was what you believe. It will be what you find the most valuable in your life. So this is really, really powerful work when we work with the identity. So moving on, all of these things here are creating our internal representation of the world. It's how we see the world. Like I said before, depending on how we have stored all this information, is how we will see the world. So again, you know, a sibling or a friend could have been at the exact same event and had a completely different experience, because it's received the world the way that it has been taught throughout your whole life. And it's impossible for two people to ever have the same experience. Our internal representation is then linked to our state. So for example, you know, if you're in a really stressed state, you're only going to see things in the world that are really stressing you out through this internal representation. If you're in a really calm and relaxed state, it doesn't matter what stressful things are coming at you, you're still going to have the opportunity to see them more clearly, because your state is in a calm way. Does that make sense? And then our state also, we'll talk about this a bit later, creates our physiology. So we have the bottom down and the top up, no, hang on a minute, the bottom up and the top down approach. So our mind affects our body and our body affects our mind, which we'll go into a bit later. Our state creates our behavior, like I was just saying before. It'll create how we choose to show up in the world. Exactly like what I just said. If you're in a calm state, you're going to behave much different and make different choices as to oppose if you were in a stress state. Our behavior is what determines our results. So how we act in the world, how we show up in the world is going to determine what comes back. What do we get from the world? So you can see how much you have control of your mind. And that'll lead me into our next part. So I'll just take this down. Do we have any questions around that before I continue? Nope. Okay. So I feel like when we understand the mind a little bit more, we can really see how it works. We then say, okay, now what? Like, what does that actually mean? We can start looking at the different belief systems. We can start looking at our values and our identity. But until we take radical self-responsibility for our lives, it doesn't mean anything, okay? So radical self-responsibility, we're either living in one of two areas. When you're not radical self-responsible, you're living in what we call the effect. So in NLP, we would call it the cause and effect. When you're living in effect, you're living in the reasons why you can't do something. That's all you see. You just start seeing why you can't do it. You're blaming the external world. For example, I can't do that because of the financial crisis. I can't do that because people don't have any money. I can't do that because my kids, because my partner. I can't do that because I'm too tired. I don't have time. All of these things is we are giving external circumstances the reasons. So we're literally just giving away our power. And when we're living in effect, I'll tell you right now, nothing changes. You'll keep living the same cycles, the same patterns. You'll be complaining, blaming, and we call this victim mode. So we're living in a victim mode. And it's not all bad. It is, it all serves a purpose at different times. But if you want to make radical change in your life and really create a life and empowered and make it what you want it to be, then we need to be living in cause, at cause. This is when we go from this happened to me and we start saying this happened for me. So it doesn't matter what is happening. It's always an opportunity for you to choose differently, or to see it from a different perspective. And that's when we go into looking at our belief systems and our values and our identity and say, well, what do I need to do in order to be at cause in a situation? When you're at cause, you will be getting results. You won't be making reasons. You only get results. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And all you start to see is what you can do. You start to release what's out of your control, and you start focusing on what you can control. And sometimes it also means we need to make sacrifices. And I don't mean big sacrifices, but we need to shift. Okay, this is what I had my focus on, but now I need to surrender and let the universe show me the way there. So it feels like we're letting go when we're living at cause. We're in radical self-responsibility, and we realize that the external world is only a reflection of our internal world. That's when we're living at cause, because we're owning our internal world. So we start to choose our actions, our decisions. We start choosing our relationships. We start choosing what behavior we're acting in. Our state of mind every single day. You're not a victim anymore. And you're understanding that you've played a part in every part of your life. Yes, sometimes things happen to us that we didn't consciously choose, but we've still played a part in everything that has been through our life so far. When you are living at cause, you are really empowered and you're tapped into the universal laws. This is when we start to really understand and see that energy attracts energy, frequency attracts frequency. And what we know for sure is when you're starting to really look into the unconscious and conscious mind and start shifting it, you're choosing to see yourself. You know how people say, oh, just see it and you'll get it. It's like, imagine you've got $1 million in the bank and then you'll get it. A part of that is true, but what it is holding the frequency. It's holding the energy of the things that you desire. So our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. For example, if you were to think of a time in the past right now where you were really, really scared and frightened, you could feel that your heart might start beating. So your body and your energy is reacting to what you've created in your mind in that moment. So this is the same thing. If you go into a space where you're seeing and feeling and like on a cellular level, not just in a few words of an affirmation, but you're really using your senses to feel the situation of what you desire, your body starts reorganizing itself. The unconscious starts rewiring the cells, energy, water, breath, everything in your body starts restructuring itself, thinking that it is your reality right now. And that's how we know that energy, that you will attract what you want then, because frequency only attracts the same frequency. And a good example of this for myself that I've recently gone through with a NLP process was around money. I've been doing a lot of money work. Anyone here have money money stories that they're playing out? See, money is a beautiful one to work on because it is going to be reflecting everything else in our life. Like any area of your life that you look at with this work is only a reflection of what's happening in other areas of your life, right? So when I'm looking at money, I did a metaphor process, which is one of my favorites to do. Just welcoming in Amy. And what I realized through that process is that all of my focus was around grasping money. And it was literally a visual of me reaching through a pool fence to a pool that was full of money. Like this pool was just chockers of notes of money. And in this process, I'm just reaching and just trying to grab it. And I'd grab handfuls and kind of like stuff it in my shirt. And I just kept reaching. And so when I was being questioned by the NLP practitioner, he was like, well, where's the money? And I was like, well, I don't know. It's disappearing. It's just gone, because my energy and my focus was around trying to grasp. So what am I going to be attracting in my life? Trying to grasp, trying to grasp, trying to grasp. So I just lived in that for 7 years. That's all. Took me 7 years to realize, probably longer. Money is a big one for us to overcome in the world, and it is an incredible area of your life to get intimate with and create a relationship with. And so through this realizing that I had to just look at the money that I had in this process, I created wind that blew the money towards me. And so then it was raining money. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? These processes, it sounds like a trip or something. And we do this without any plant medicine or breath work. This is all just from the unconscious mind creating symbolism as to, you know, what it needs and desires and answers. We say that the answers are within, and this is where it all works, right? So I had all this money kind of like raining down on me, and he said, well, what are you doing now? And I'm like, actually nothing. I'm not grasping for it. I'm not trying to keep it. I actually feel so calm and relaxed. I trust that the wind will always blow and money will always come. And from that moment, my money stories and my bank accounts have completely shifted. And it's just through a 10-minute process of working into the unconscious mind. And through that, we call it metaphors because we don't even have to understand the exact limiting belief or the exact moment that I could have been, you know, traumatized by money stories as a child and things like that. We're working with this unconscious mind, which is like just imaginative play. And it's actually really incredible. I'm just going to read here what Kate's written. It works. I ended up living in my desired place by manifesting an eviction. So it says, yeah, with photos, reels, and singing. It's nuts. Didn't realize I was doing it till after the fact. Exactly. 100%. Imagining, I don't know if that was, imagining what you desire and living in it. So at the moment, I'm desiring a house and I see myself every day. I don't even consciously do it anymore, but I will every day see myself in this house working, what it's going to look like sitting at my desk, playing music, getting excited around the food that I'm going to cook. And it's not even conscious anymore, which also leads me probably into our next point here. Let me check where I'm at too, so I don't get off track. So yeah, radical self-responsibility and the action which change creates change. So essentially, once we start to look at what beliefs and everything are in there, we need to start to become more conscious of them. And we go through these 4 stages. So at the beginning, you are unconscious that you are incompetent at something. So there might be something that's not working out in your life and you're just blaming everything else and you're not even aware that it's not going well. It's unconscious. And then you start to become conscious of it. And it's like, why is this happening? Why do I keep attracting this same job or the same relationship or going through the same thing? Start to really get conscious of what's happening. So we call this conscious incompetence still. I should write this down because this one's a bit wordy. Once we're conscious that we're having this problem, we can then start to choose. This is when we start to really make all the shifts with our processes. We use all different tools. And so then what happens is when we start to go through, the universe will always be like, oh, okay, you want to change, do you? Here's an opportunity. So it'll throw something at you where you get to make a different choice this time. And this is how you learn. It's not about just becoming aware that you do something wrong and then being like, oh, okay, well, I fix that now because I'm aware of it. It's like, how do I actually move through doing it differently now? How have I changed? What beliefs have I changed? What identity have I changed? What kind of person would I be if I responded differently? When we start playing with this, we start moving into the conscious competence. So we're aware that we're doing it right. Sometimes this is where we can bounce in between, because then all of a sudden we do it the wrong way or the undesirable way again. And afterwards we start to reflect. We start to reflect, oh, okay, that is how I used to behave. What would I have done differently? So you can naturally move through the same event in your mind with the different options. So you're starting to rewire the mind as to different ways to do something. Some people spend forever here. Some people keep going in between that conscious competence and conscious incompetence. And me, wow, we've all done it. We all do it. You know, I do it with many things in my life still, where I just sometimes choose to do it the other way. It's still conscious and I will just deal with the repercussions later. But what happens to really continue through to becoming unconscious competence, like I said before, with my ability to manifest things now, I don't do it consciously. And when I try to do it consciously, it never works. It's because I've got to the point now that it is just a part of who I am. It's a part of my energy field. I don't have to try. So it's an unconscious competence. And it's only when we have repetition from the other two, the ones before. So we know that as humans, repetition is what creates behavior. We need to do it over and over again. We're a bit slow. We need to keep doing it for it to really be rewired into the brain. And this is because though we've spent maybe, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of our life doing it an old way. And so we can't expect ourselves just to change. We can change perspectives overnight. We can change identities overnight. But the behaviors and everything that follows sometimes need a little bit of reminding. We need to catch ourselves and say, this is how I used to feel. How would I like to feel now? And start to make those shifts. And it could be around a strong emotion. So for example, if you feel jealousy a lot, you could start to feel that emotion bubble up in you. And now, because you're conscious of this pattern that keeps playing out, you have an opportunity to pause and reflect. Why am I feeling jealous? What is this person reflecting back to me? And what do I need to shift and change? And the next time it comes up, you already know the answers and you can start to allow yourself to feel what you needed, because you get answers from within. And then the next time it comes up, you kind of notice it, but not really. And then all of a sudden, everybody's doing that all around you all the time and you never notice it. So I hope that makes sense. Is there any questions? I want to keep checking in. It's really weird without interaction. I just feel like I'm talking away. Is it landing? Beautiful. Okay. So yeah, if I want to put it into like pinpoints of what we're talking about, arming yourself with as much knowledge about the mind as you're interested in learning about the conscious and unconscious mind. Taking radical self-responsibility, and I really recommend journaling on where in your life are you blaming other people or aspects or situations in your life, and really journal it out to get clarity on that and start to write into like how you can take your power back in those areas. And And then tuning into what needs to change. So once you start to become consciously aware of things and start just noticing where changes need to be made. And through that, we use all of our tools. So this relationship between the conscious and unconscious mind, the more we dive into it, the more open it is all the time. So after I do my 21-day program, I find that people are having like really lucid dreams, and lots of things are coming at them to challenge them and test them. And they're starting to experience different ways to responding because the conscious mind is so open. So this takes a practice as well, and it's through repetition of listening to the unconscious mind. And it speaks to us through sensation. So it can be feelings and sensations of the physical body. And so this is why one of our tools that we use, we talk about it being top down or bottom up. You know, those times where you're just stuck in your head and you just can't get out of the cycle of thoughts, the repetition of going over a conversation, or just anything that is just in your head and it just won't move. Then we say, we go from bottom up. We need to move the body. We need to shake out the body, because moving our body is going to change our hormones in our body. It's going to help to shift the energy of the mind. So we use bottom up approaches like yoga, dancing, shaking, trembling, screaming, walking, running, swimming, anything, cold water, sauna, anything where you're getting the energy moving in the body is going to help clear the mind. And then again, we have it the other way around when we're feeling like anxious and we're just sick in our gut, but our mind isn't really clear. We have no idea what's going on. We start to shift the mindset. Our body starts responding. And a good example of this is when people are wanting to either, lose weight or just change their physical health or an illness or a disease. It's generally we need to shift things in the mind, and then the body is going to respond differently. So just to be aware that we have these different approaches and that both of them affect both. We can't do one way or the other. And this is why I love, doing breath work and then yoga and then some NLP. I find it really, really powerful because we're coming at it from all angles. Obviously, other ways that I'm really passionate about tapping into the unconscious mind is through breath work. This is definitely where my journey began. It is a way to clear energy in the unconscious mind through the body. So everything that has been stored, like we were talking about earlier, about these things happening to us when we were young, majority of the time we may not have had a safe environment to process the emotions. We may not have been shown how to process the emotions. We have probably been told just to stop crying and no, it's okay, don't make a big deal of it. So it's stored in the body. So our breath work is a way that we're actually unlocking the unconscious mind as well by clearing the energy of the body. A very powerful way. So our words determine the world we live in. When you really start to become conscious of your thoughts and become the observer, this is when we start to understand that our thoughts are creating our reality. So the words that you're using all carry a vibration, they carry a frequency. And again, whatever you're putting out there, you're attracting in. So another opportunity is through journaling, through NLP practices, things like that, to really start to tune into what are you putting your energy to? How are you, let me put it this way. So 80% of your energy from your body goes through your mind, through your thoughts. So 80%. We were taught at school that food goes into our body and our body then gets energy from the food, and then we exert that through physical exercise. That's kind of, the basis of what we all have been told to believe. Our food is what heals our body and creates our body. So our food has nothing to do with our energy. Our breath and our mindset is actually what gives us energy. So you can be exhausted. You could do 2 minutes of deep breathing and you can feel like you have energy again, right? You keep hearing about this second wave of energy, things like that. It's got nothing to do with food. And I mean, anyone here feel really energized after they eat a meal? Like anyone at all? You might, yeah, not usually ever. So it's our breath that gives us energy. And it's our mind, it's our mindset as well. And so 80% of your energy of your life is going to your thoughts. So just consider for a moment what you spend all of your time thinking about, because that's literally what you're giving your life to, your life force energy. 80% of your energy goes to your thoughts. So I kind of feel like it's really important to spend time to observe what you're thinking about. How are you talking to yourself? What language are you using? What kind of words are you using? Are you speaking from a place where you're at cause, or are you being a victim all the time? Are you judging people all the time? Because every time we put energy out, we're actually sending that energy into other people's lives and onto the planet. So we're getting clear on the mind and the unconscious mind is extremely powerful, not only to change your life, but it's literally helping to heal the planet. Because when we raise our vibration, as we know, we're then holding this frequency that whenever we interact with anyone, we don't have to heal them. We don't have to offer them advice. We don't have to tell them what we did. We're just holding a frequency. And just by being in your presence, you'll be healing the world because you're able to hold it. And I often have people saying to me, yeah, but I'm up here and then other people just bring me down. And I'm an empath and I feel everything. And recently I've had this discussion with someone about the difference between being an empath and having compassion for people or projected victimhood. So when you have compassion for someone, you won't feel drained, you won't feel affected by their energy. But when you are projecting victimhood onto someone, one, you're disempowering them because you're taking away their radical self-responsibility, you're taking away their power by placing victim on them, and you're starting to feel sorry for them. And you start to feel your energy drain and that you just want to help them and you're giving them your energy and you're depleting their energy. So there's a difference between having compassion for people and then projecting things onto them. Because if you're not doing that and you're just holding compassion, you can't be affected by other people's energies. Does that make sense? Yep. Mind blown. Yeah, this is a huge one for me. I mean, it's the same way as talking about other people. Again, this comes up a lot in my sessions where people are saying things about me or what they say to me. And I always ask, like, what you think about yourself. So if someone says you're selfish, it's like, well, what do you think about you being selfish? So for me, this was something that I worked through. If someone calls me selfish, I have absolute no emotion around it whatsoever. Because yeah, I am. God damn, hell yes, I am. I'm selfish. My energy is like the most precious thing that I have in this life. And I will put myself first before everybody else to make sure that I'm holding this frequency, because I know how important it is. If I had still been holding beliefs around what selfish means in a negative way, and someone calls me selfish, and I want to be selfish and I desire and I know I should, but I can't because it's doing this and I've got all these stories, then it's going to trigger me. And then I'm going to start saying, oh, well, these people are just, you know, it's their, you know, they're judgmental, it's their energy and they're projecting that onto me. Or I could own it, take full ownership and be like, actually, yeah, I have wounding around being selfish. So again, it's always using every single opportunity and saying, this is happening for me. Why is this happening? It's happening for me. How can I actually use this to shift and grow and change so that other people aren't affecting me? Because we're giving away our power when we let them affect our energy. Yeah. Still no questions? All right. Okay, so yeah, so just to go over it one more time, we are starting to learn about the conscious and unconscious mind more and more, and neuroplasticity, how we can change our mind. We used to think only 20 years ago that we couldn't change these behaviors. So there's more and more things out there. And I just suggest really diving into whatever you feel resonant with. Something that I would like to mention on here is that, you know, sometimes people even can have a negative idea around things like NLP. People think it can be manipulative. And, you know, you've got to understand that there is nothing that is good and bad in the world, right? And I use this example, like you can have a hammer and you could build a house with a hammer and you could cause massive destruction with the hammer. Is it the hammer that's good or bad? It's like, no, right? It's the person holding the hammer. It's the intention of the person who has the hammer, that has the tool. NLP is a tool, and it is incredible used in the right intention. Money, you know, people will say, oh, if you want money, you're greedy. Imagine good people with a shit ton of money and the change you can make in the world. It's not the money that's good or bad, it's the intention behind using it. And I feel this is true with all the modalities that we're using in our lives these days, all of them. Sometimes people are on a healing journey and they're using all of these tools and they want to share it with people, and their intention is coming from a good place, but also just remembering that it needs to be embodied before it is shared through onto other people. So things like, you know, NLP and breathwork and all of these incredible things, choosing people who are really resonant with you, and choosing modalities that are resonant with you, that have had them used in a respectful way, people who are fully embodied and are using it for good intentions. So I just wanted to throw that in there, because I hear sometimes people, you know, talking about NLP, because it's basically helping people to get out of their own way, you know, see outside the box. This is what all we do, is we give you a different perspective, and it just takes a few sentences sometimes and people completely change their life. And it's the power of our language, and it's really powerful. So what I'm basically doing at the moment is doing a 21-day breakthrough program with people. So they get a membership, and online we have a different embodiment practices every day where I get you to connect with your body through the elements. So every single day you will either do some breath or move your body, just drink water consciously, feel your emotions, all different things, just little 5-minute practices to do every day for the 21 days. As well, in there, we are talking about things like radical self-responsibility. There's yoga practices. In the 21 days, you have 3 sessions with me where we go up to 6 hours of doing different processes like timeline therapy and hypnosis and breath work and movement. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's a fun way to heal. I've done the hard way. I've done the reliving trauma way. I've done the big release of emotions way, and it has all been incredible and served its purpose. And there's also this beautiful way to do it through NLP. So there's about 6 hours in this 21 days, and I'm working with people who are just so ready to break through where they are. It's been on repetition, they've been doing it over and over again, and they're just so ready. And that's who I want to work with. So I only work with people who are just like 100% ready. If they say 99.9, I don't take them. Because again, intention is 60% of any outcome. So you need to be really ready to jump in. Yeah, I'll definitely send you some information through. It'll be in the email, I think, that Belle sends out. I'll send her a few links. And so after the 21-day breakthrough program, as we talked about, you know, we need this repetition. We need to keep going. We need to move forward. So I have an exclusive Facebook program or Facebook group where we do 2 coaching sessions a month, as well as having guest speakers, and we do some events and things like that in there, breathwork and things. And with that option, you can also come on the 4-night retreat. So there's a couple options there. The retreat is like the big hoo-ha at the end, the big celebration that Belle and I are co-facilitating. We have one coming up in February. This is the detox retreat, and our next one is in September next year. And everything that we do is all wrapped up in this 4 nights of escaping off-grid, connecting with the most incredible women, and really nurturing our mind and body. We do a full cleanse of the mind using these techniques, the body using yoga and the sauna and the pool. We're having detox smoothies and soups, all organic, all locally sourced. They're absolutely amazing. There's a few people on here who've been on retreat a few times, so they can vouch for how yummy the food is. We've got a guest speaker coming in February, which will be incredible. And yeah, that's about it, I think, for me today. Thank you for joining us. And like I said, please reach out. I'd love to friend anyone on Facebook, find me, Sarah Brown, and send me a DM if you have any questions about anything we spoke about today or would like to know more about the programs. And I think that's it. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you, Belle. Thank you for this opportunity.